Does anybody like to schedule? Hearing none, move on to item number 4, approval of the agenda. Any additions or corrections?
I do have a couple of additions. The first is the addition of the May 2nd minutes. Those were handed out this morning, just from our meeting last Thursday, just a short one-page thing there. And then also we need to add an executive session. I will just put that at the end of the meeting. SDCL 125-2, 1 for personnel, and 125-2, 4 for contract negotiations.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
We had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to number 5, consent agenda items. We have approval of the minutes, approval of travel request, approval of personnel action notices, and approval of human services report.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Routine business. Approval of claims.
Move approval.
Second.
Had a motion and a second. Any questions?
There was
Great.
one addition to the claims that I set out in front of you this morning. There was something added to the tax sale redemption. It was just an addition, and it was highlighted, and then the total for that particular department changed. So that was handed out this morning.
Okay, we call a roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Boersma,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
motion carries.
Moving on to department head reports. Brian, would you like to start?
Good morning.
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 As you can see in my report here, we've still got one road that we have closed down. It'd be the County Road 14 south of Sinai, or in the Sinai area. And another thing, as you guys know, we've started construction work for the preservation grants on County Road 19. That bridge it's started and moving on the way, I guess. Met with LG Everest regarding driveway application permit on April 30th. May 1st, I met with Wilde Air Services with Stacy to discuss something future here in the meeting with possible landing planes on county roads. May 1st, also met with Banner in regards to getting our big grant program, identify some 5-year road and bridge plans, and load limits. I spoke with some county officials from other counties, Moody, Lake, and Hamlin. We're looking to pull our load limits as early as possible. We're looking at the 10th of May be the earliest, most likely be next week. I also looked up some codified law. As long as we do have the signs up, we do not need a resolution. I guess if any of you guys would be interested in seeing that, I have that right here. We can make copies, but it's referencing 322224. As long as the signs are up, the limits are in place. We're looking at our gravel roads are healing back up slowly, but as we get rain, it's not helping us. But we look to get them off as early as possible. We've been staying in touch with other counties so we can look at pulling them all at the same time. I guess, is there any questions you guys have on the load limits? And it's just been an incredibly wet year, and we're not the only ones, but we're trying to preserve what we have.
No. And it's good that you're working with the other neighboring counties to be consistent. So.
Yep. Another thing that kind of came up since we have a lot of rain and the fields are wet, been looking at a lot of manure pipe encroachments, been updating some of these permits that we have out there, since dairies have maybe changed hands, updating those permits. One of them would be KC Dairy, and actually they just stopped in this morning to give me the updated permits. We're trying to keep these pipes out of our ditches, trying to make sure they're doing it right, and also met with a dairy owner over by Volga, and they're getting some additional permits. Then yesterday I met with the owner of Lindy Dairy. They got some manure pipes along the road. We're trying to get those cleaned up and out of our ditches, and looking at the permitting processes that way, I guess. I don't know if you guys have been getting calls, but I know I've been addressing a lot of these. So if you guys see anything that comes up, make sure you inform me.
Any other questions? Mr. Pierce?
On County Road 14, that's still closed, are you expecting there's going to be any damage to that road once it's not closed? What's the situation?
We've been keeping quite the eye on that. As we've been getting rain, it's just right there, as if it's just going to come back up on the road. Right now, there is no physical damage to the road. It's just the sub base is wet, and the water's right next to the road. So we've been keeping it closed down until we can get a little bit of reprieve with the water.
Thank you.
The south side of Lake Campbell, I'm not sure if that's a...
That's a Moody County road, and I've also been talking with Mark on that. I noticed it's starting to
it's encroaching into the
erode
driveway.
into the asphalt, but yeah, it's been made aware of.
And that's the
Moody County line.
That's their line. I didn't know if
Yep.
it was a joint responsibility or if it was...
No, that section there is a Moody County road.
Okay.
We've also addressed some other sections up near Ponset, not on Ponset itself, but the high water up there we've had with the wind and whatnot. It's been getting close to the road, so we've been putting some smaller riprap in order to prevent the erosion from happening.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Marty?
Good morning.
Morning.
Just a quick review on jail statistics. We have presently 27 in jail right now. We have 117 on the on 24/7 program, and 24/7 continues to stay busy. On April 27th, Walmart Pharmacy and myself conducted it was a national DEA drug take-back. And guys recall on the 27th, it wasn't a nice day. It was snowing. And we were outside, but we did have a cover, so we didn't get too wet. But considering the weather and so forth, we took back 69 pounds of unwanted drugs that people brought in and put in a couple boxes for us. And so I thought it was still worthwhile. A lot of Oxycontin, fentanyl, a lot of the stuff that we need not to be in medicine cabinets that don't need to be there. So I think it was and they want to participate. There's 2 a year that are on the national level. Now I do take back every day at my office. I do have a box in the East Lobby that we take drugs back every day. I still have barricade issues. Basically, it's in Madera Township on 215. There's a bridge there. We call it Stoner's Bridge because we make several arrests there for narcotics violations or drug violations. But now the kid, I shouldn't say kids. Now individuals want to shoot carp off that bridge, and they're going around the barricades. And the supervisor on that area once because there's been a lot of damage on that road, several thousands of dollars. They've been on that road, gotten stuck, and so they're pretty fussy on that road. And so now I got some residents that are kind of keeping an eye too. They can't keep traffic off it, so they give the road a chance to dry so that they can work on it. So, but anyway, we're working on that. We've had 2 dairy burglaries, but there's been a lot of dairy burglaries in the southern part of around the Sioux Falls area. we have developed a suspect, and we'll be sending paperwork to the state's attorney today for a warrant. So hopefully we'll be able to pick this person up. Also, it's just it's National Correctional Officer Week, so I guess I just want to recognize our correctional officers at the county jail. They do a great job. They I don't know how they do it. They put up with a lot back there with attitudes and things like that. But, I think every year our insurance company talks about Brookings County, how we don't get lawsuits like other jails do, because we have good policies in my department. Employees follow policies, and that's what keeps us out of lawsuits and so forth. So I just want to just let them know that we appreciate them and so forth, because it's not an easy job. I have it easy. I can go back and I can come back out of there. They have to be there 8 hours a day and deal with that stuff back there. So anyway, so that, other than that, if you have any questions.
Marty, I just have a question. I know earlier you met with the DOT and the Highway Patrol on the intersection of the County Road 23 and 14 at the Roar Corner.
Yes.
How, discussion on that? I know there was another accident there.
We'll probably have another meeting coming up, so we'll probably discuss it again. When we discussed that before, we were trying to figure out what we could do to make that more safe as far as the conditions of the road. I think you're the one that told me that at one time they had a snow fence on the northeast corner and, those types of things. But I asked the state 2 years ago to study that intersection. I sent a diagram and what are the things we're experiencing there. And so far, nothing has really been accomplished. But the patrol is frustrated, too. Okay. So it's not just, we'd like to see something there. But we have another meeting coming up, and this will be one of the topics.
Okay. Thank you.
The problem we have there is that it's individuals that stop at the intersection doesn't make sure that they got a clear path before. We wrote 2 citations there. The driver that had the right-of-way didn't have a driver's license, and of course the failed to yield after stop, which is, but just the way that his divide, it's hard to tell who's turning and who's not turning, and they just have to make sure they stay and make sure the traffic is clear before they pull out. But it is a concern for us.
Okay. Thank you. Vicki?
Good morning. We made it through April and our taxes, and we collected over 20 million in taxes for the month of April. That was up probably about $1 million from last year. And everything went pretty smoothly. Also in April, the state sends out renewal notices for Motor V to remind you to get your tags. And they sent out the June renewals, the Ks and the Ls, and the name on the front did not match the vehicles on the back. So we had, I'm sure, 100 calls the last few days in April because people were afraid that they'd been hacked and, that type of thing. So there was great concern. We did put a public service announcement on the radio and put it on Facebook and tried to, get it out to people. And I did see it was on Kelloland, but that wasn't until the following Monday, on the 29th, I believe. So they are resending those. They have sent them out. So it was just, they had new people and it was just done wrong. So the system itself is correct. It was just the notices. So we dealt with that. And then we received the wind tower money, which I put in my staff report. It was down just a little bit this year from last year. The total we received was $905 million compared to, or $905,000 compared to $901,000 this year. So that was down just a little bit. And to kind of go over how they determine what we get for wind tax money, we get all of the nameplate tax, and then 20% of the gross receipts tax comes to the county level. And then that is divided 50% to the schools, 35% to the county, and 15% to the townships. So that is how it's broke down, and it shows you there what the county received and the townships are all broke down in the school districts. So that has been apportioned, well, they'll get it the 17th of the month this month. So it's all in the process of getting apportioned out to the different entities. So that is kind of what we've been doing the last couple weeks. Any questions anybody has?
When you look at the direct payables payment register, and I'm looking on page 27, and I
don't have it,
yeah.
right, yeah.
We made a payment for professional services on the jail remodel that was $22,134, but it says that we had zero budgeted. Just how did we have that set up in our budget?
Is that the
How
one that
come-
we just changed? No, okay.
Was this out of the jail,
I'm looking, it says that it is 304, so that'd be the building fund, right?
that would be the
304.
jail, that would be the jail fund, yes.
Okay. But why does it say zero budgeted? That's what I wanted to know. What?
We didn't budget
We didn't
anything
budget,
specifically for professional services in that budget. I mean, there is enough, the tax dollars that came in, we budgeted for that amount. Is that correct, Vicki, in that fund?
Right.
But we didn't split it out by specific lines.
So where is that coming out of then? Is that coming out of the funds that we put into the 304 for detention center?
It would be coming out of building fund, or that 304.
It's coming out of the 304
Four
fund.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So we budgeted money in that particular fund. That's a separate, capital fund
Right.
just for the jail project. And that's money that we've, I think from some of the levy over.
From the levy, yes.
So, I mean, that's not anything that we've designated yet. No, this is money that has been used or that we've earned from the levy that we've had the last couple of years. So we budget so much in there, and then it comes out.
This is coming out of the levy then, the tax
Yes,
levy?
it is.
Okay.
Yes.
And we just don't have it under that line item
Yeah.
for professional services.
We
have
don't-
it.
The budget, yeah, we don't have budgets that get into that much detail in that particular fund.
Are
So
we eventually going to have line items in that fund because we
we
have
will.
a lot of money
We will.
there?
Yes, we will.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Thank
But-
you.
But the money is there, and it's legislative audit doesn't look at that level. They look at the fund itself, as long as that doesn't go in the red. But yeah, it looks probably like it is, but it's not. The money is there.
But we're paying those expenses out of the levy money
Yes.
as they come up. Okay.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Because all that levy money for the bridge, or for the jail, is all separate, and it goes into that fund. Just like the county building levy goes into the county building fund. So it's all done in the background of our software system, so it's all tracked that way. So,
Okay,
anything? Thanks.
thank you. Jacob?
I don't have anything new to report this morning.
Okay. Kristin, you want to go next?
Good morning. So there's a couple of different things on here. I'll briefly just go over the GFP kind of executive summary because you guys can read through that. This is the document that was sent by Arden. Kind of goes over everything that we went through over the November kind of closed door session, and then as well as the session with Governor Noem. Kind of gives you an idea of the different programs they're looking at initiating for conservation efforts, and then where those funds might be allocated. We did discuss having some of those funds for youth programs, if there is funding available, actually go back into different facilities around the state that provide youth shooting sports. So as well as funding for conservation efforts, and maybe new taxes on things that aren't taxed appropriately. For example, ammunition is taxed at a 9% because it's a shooting sport. However, if you look at different recreation activities, they aren't taxed at the same level. So taxing things at that level would actually increase different funds, conservation efforts, and then shooting sport efforts. So that's just kind of an overview of the different pieces. We will be having another forum come the fall this year to kind of see where implementation is at. One of the things that I suggested that wasn't this focus, they're actually putting into practice. So professional photographers, if you go into a state park, you will now have to pay a yearly fee to bring your clients into a state park. And they believe that'll garner about $1 million in revenue for the state for conservation. I have no problem as a photographer paying $250 a year to be able to legally use a state park. So that is actually being put into place as of July 1st. So small win for conservation efforts in the state. So on to a couple other things. Before we talk about another GFMP program, just want to give you a first quarter overview for everything. Our first quarter revenue was $25,456. Our budgeted revenue goal was $75,000, so we are currently sitting at 34% of our yearly goal. So we will look at budgeting higher for 2020 for our goal. And that's just a little update for you guys in our revenue goals. And we're sitting about 20% of our expense goals as well. So we are under what we planned for expenses. Okay, so something that we do have a little bit of looking at, and I believe, do we have that, Stacy? So this was put in your guys' packet. This is a joint agreement between the City of Brookings, Game Fish and Parks, and ourselves. What this is a agreement that the Game Fish and Parks would provide an intern for programming that deals with nature and deals with shooting sports. The individual is somebody who actually did internships with us last year and then helped me quite a bit figure out kind of what I was doing last year. But her position would work at the nature park with naturalist programming, and then she would also work with the youth shooting sports programming that we've established and will be released next Monday. So what we have is Game Fish and Parks has drawn up, this comes from Emmett and then Talia out of Sioux Falls. They have drawn up an agreement that the individual will be a City of Brookings employee. And then at the end of her term, she would approximately spend about 10 hours a week working with us. We have other interns that would also help run this program. So she would just kind of be supervising the actual program itself, making sure we have the supplies we need, etc. And they will provide up to $10,000 or 50% of their wages. They will be a City of Brookings employee, and then at the end of that, we will pay up to 25%. So Game Fish and Parks will pay 50%, City of Brookings will then take the other 25%, and we would take 25% of this individual's wages to equal their salary. So even if they're employed, full-time, we are only responsible for a quarter of it. So I say a lot, I just realized that as I'm sitting here. So at the end of the season, that's kind of the way that this is set up. I'm looking just for authorization to sign this, or if there's any minor changes that we might need to do. Just looking at kind of how this is set up, it looks like it's a really good partnership and a collaboration. Really what we're looking to do with City of Brookings to kind of run some of these joint programs with them, where the naturalist program with City of Brookings would be running, we're going to run at different times. So in the morning, we would run like a hunting or shooting sports type program. And then in the afternoon, the City of Brookings would run like an outdoor nature walk and fishing and stuff like that. So our programs would just really coincide with each other, and then utilizing kind of all aspects of Game Fish and Parks.
Any questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
When we're looking at this position, first of all, the indemnification stuff, and I'd asked Dan to take a look at it, but I have a question. This person will not be considered an employee, agent, or volunteer of Brookings County as well as the state of South Dakota, is that right?
Correct.
So in number 6 in the indemnification paragraph, could we be added on that? Because I was concerned about workers' comp issues, and the city's going to provide workers' comp coverage for this position, right? It doesn't say that. So if they're over at the BCOAC and we're paying 25% of their salary, are we going to have an obligation on a workers' comp if they get hurt over there? That's a question I've got, and I don't know if we got it written right for that. And then my last question was, is this in your budget then?
Our budget is for 3, this is what was approved, for 3 interns. I actually am only hiring 1 intern plus this position currently.
So when you take what you think you're going to spend on this 25% plus what you're already
I'm
spending.
already under budget.
You're in budget. Okay. That was my question.
Dan, did you have a chance to review that clause there? Can you give me any feedback?
Yes, and when this is officially on the county commission agenda, we'll have a finalized version for you.
Okay.
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 Any other questions?
Any more?
Any questions on the revenue or expense?
Do you know what your total expenses were? I know it's in the budget, but I'd have to look. You had the income. I was just curious where you were at total for expenses. At 20%, but
Of 189.
of 100, okay, 20% of 189, so about 40,000.
Yep.
Okay.
I know that number. All right, thanks.
Okay. Bob, you got quick. We got a 9 o'clock, so.
Disregard this whole stack and go to we did turn our claim in for public assistance of approximately $437,000. $365,000 approximate was township road damage on the gravels. And then the other monies would have been, since we had a snow event or that blizzard April 10 through 13, we was allowed to claim snow removal fees. And rest of that went to that. Emergency management, we had $1,910 worth of expenses. Most of that was sandbags and sand, a couple shovels. Brookings County had, looks like $28,000, and that was snow removal costs. We had no road. The road damage that Brookings County had fell under the federal highway system, which was not eligible for this particular FEMA stand. So the only thing we claimed from the Brookings County Highway Department would have been the snow removal cost for the blizzard event. And any questions?
No.
We'll keep in. Right now, we had 19 of our 23 townships filed. They're being reviewed by PEER right now, the Office of Emergency Management. We've gotten 2 phone calls to go get additional information for them. And,
Okay.
we'll have a final set of numbers. Hopefully, by the next commission meeting, we'll be able to present to you and tell you more exact numbers. Right now, these are all approximate numbers. We get them, we process them, we send them to PEER, then they have to be processed again, then FEMA has to take a look at them.
Okay. Well, I'll bring it back up after our public hearing. It is 9 o'clock, and we have a action to remove resolution number 18-51, a resolution modifying the Brookings County Highway System due to the review of the primary county highway system from the table. Do I have a motion to approve and move from table?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I would now open the public hearing. Public hearing and action to approve resolution number 18-51, a resolution modifying the Brookings County Highway System due to the review of the primary county highway system. I would ask if there's any Anybody that would like to speak in favor of the proponents? Is there any proponents that would like to speak? None, I'd move on to opponents. Is there any opponents to this? Is there any opponents? Hearing none, I'd like to close the public hearing and look for it's already had a motion by myself and seconded by Krogman to approve the resolution on 12/18/18. Is there any discussion or questions?
I just want to make a comment. It was interesting on the deletions, how many of them went back a number of years and we just hadn't taken them out. On the additions, is it the same type of thing? Because we didn't have a breakdown on why we were adding. Was it, again, just things that we hadn't picked up over the
Correct. And this is basically just updated in the state's inventory.
Any more?
Do we need to amend the motion because this document is different than the document that the original motion was?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve as amended?
I would move to approve as amended in
Second.
today's document.
I had a motion and a second to approve document as amended. Any more discussion? We call the roll, please.
Boersma,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Amendment carries.
We'll go back to the main motion. Motion to approve modifying the Brookings County Highway System due to the review of the county highway and the change. Do I have a motion to approve as amended?
Roll call.
Okay, roll call. Jenna?
Krogman,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Boersma,
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, Bob, you want to come back?
Any questions on what has been turned in as our public assistance request to prepare? As I was stating, it will be processed by the Office of Emergency Management, which they've been doing. They've been in contact with my office. And then the complete package will be sent to FEMA. And if the governor, if she makes a declaration and everything goes, then this packet will be, our county would be eligible for the funding from FEMA. Right now, there's no promises. No one's been promised anything. We just did our paperwork.
Any questions, Bob, on the declaration?
Nope.
You have a staff report?
Yeah, the other stuff on the staff report, we did a tornado. We had severe weather week, April 22 to 26. We had a tornado drill in this building. Individuals, we did move down to the severe weather shelter, which is in the basement of this facility. And that went well. We do have the chairs set up. It is a public severe weather shelter, properly marked, and it's all set up downstairs. And right now we have a restroom being constructed downstairs. Once the restroom's constructed, we will have a public open house to show the public what the public shelter is. But the shelter is usable as of now, in case of severe weather was to roll through. And speaking of severe weather warning, today we have it's the first Tuesday of the month, so you'll be hearing the sirens go off at 1 o'clock. They'll be testing the sirens. We had a joint jurisdiction meeting last week, or April 25th. We had storm spotter training in Madison. Ray Lynn and Richard both attended that in Madison. We had a 911 meeting April 29th. The state and local agreement was submitted to the Office of Emergency Management on April 30th. The signature page was submitted as a be it noted item on the agenda for you to take a look at once I'm finished here. Thursday, there's a PPCC pod meeting. Next week, I've got a safety committee meeting. At the safety committee meeting, we're going to take a look at possibly doing some incident command system training for the, just to get that started again. We first did incident command training in Brookings back in 2013 when I took over emergency management. It's been over 5 years ago, so it's time to start that again. We've got a lot of new employees, to include some commissioners that probably haven't been exposed to incident command system training, and we'll start doing some of that. I had a travel request in for a Tri-State Emergency Management Association meeting next week, which I'll be going to. I'll be on vacation a little bit in a couple of weeks. And other than that, that's all I have. We are having our hazardous materials plan reviewed, updated this year, and we've got our first meeting on May 22nd on that with the first planning district. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Commissioner Pierce?
I think at our last commission meeting, you said you were going to reach out to Madera Township and report back. Any information on that?
I did reach out. They did not reach back. And Madera Township is one of those that took, it's the second highest in township damages reported to me. So I didn't necessarily want to be a pest. I understand your concerns are important.
Yep.
I understand your request to me, but I also felt I didn't want to put undue pressure on them to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a mess in Madera Township.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. I will, and I'll reach out again. I'm working with Ms. Stephenson. She asked the same thing, and I'm in the doghouse with her too. So
you're not in the doghouse. and then I have one other question for Mr. Hill. The commission would be interested at our next meeting in perhaps you bringing the county subdivision ordinance and maybe just reviewing that with us so we have a better understanding of it. If you would be willing to do that.
I can do that.
Great.
Subdivision ordinance briefing. Very good. Thank you.
Bob, I don't know if you heard anything on our communication tower survey.
They were still assembling the data. I understand that's getting to be a thing they keep repeating to me. I'll get back in touch with them. And
Yeah, maybe you can pin down a date.
Find out how many, if they got all the replies back, and I'll get more specific details from them and see exactly where it's at. Because obviously they have to get all the replies back, and then they have to assemble those, and then they have to schedule the electronic stuff. So I'll get your reply for the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's not 9:15 yet, so we'll move on to regular business. Action to approve agreement number 19-27, an agreement for voluntary right-of-way donation made by Joe Cook and Sons Farms, Inc., 21008 484th Avenue, Elkton. I look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion here? Questions?
Could somebody just explain what's going on with that?
Brian, is this along the County Road 8?
This is for the 27 bridge project. We have some temporary easement we need, and this is what's taking care of it.
Okay. More discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Letter B, action to approve agreement number 19-28, an agreement for voluntary right-of-way donation made by Phil Davis, Sodak Holding LLC, 2830 East 3725 North Layton, Ohio. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'm assuming this is the same structure?
Correct.
And these are temporary easements, correct?
Yes, these are temporary easements while the bridge is under construction.
For us for construction use. After that,
The
easement
after
expires.
Construction's complete, these will go back to the original land.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Letter C, action approve agreement number 19-29 and an application for occupancy of the right-of-way county highways made by Clark Engineering for Northwestern Energy in Brookings Township. I look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments?
I did look into this one too and made contact with Clark Engineering. This is like a test pole or some sort of a pole, but it won't interfere with any of our right-of-way. And if you also look at the map, it's not near an intersection, so, and I also made sure that there wouldn't be any like additional guy wires or anything protruding out towards the road. I guess that's all the information I got from the gal at Clark. I guess if there was any other questions that I had thought of, I did contact her back, making sure it's going to stay as close to the right-of-way line as possible.
Okay. Any more questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Letter D, action to approve abatement number 19-17, an abatement application made by the city of Brookings for parcel number 40960, -11-049-302-10 in the amount of $13,365.62. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Letter E, action to approve abatement number 19-23, an abatement application made by Dan J. Carter for parcel number 40381-00800-001-00 in the amount of $165.52 for 2018, $167.62 for 2017, and $171.86 for 2016. Got a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion a second. Any discussion here?
Yeah. What's the?
So this abatement here is to correct a DOE office error where a 20 by 22 attached garage was drawn directly over top of a 20 by 22 detached garage, so we didn't even know it was there. The homeowner came in and questioned their value, had 3 comparable properties on the same street, and they all had similar assessed values within a couple $100, and we just started taking the subject property apart piece by piece, and that's how we found the extra garage. So the value that was added incorrectly was $11,000, therefore the full year tax abatement on $11,000 corresponding to the levies and the factor for each year going back 3 years.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. It is close to 9:15. Discussion and possible action to approve closing a portion of Broadway Avenue, County Road 23, in the city of Aurora for Gala Days on August 3rd, 2019. Pat Tingle, chairperson of the Aurora Gala Days Committee, present. Pat, if you just state your name and.
Pat Tingle, chairman of the Aurora Gala Days Committee. Morning, how's everybody?
Good.
Good. Once again, it's that time of the year we come and request to close Broadway for our event in August 3rd. As it's stated, we've got the detours laid out there through the city. City has approved us to go through that way. So we're requesting that we be able to block off Broadway from East Pine Street up to Rasmus Street there from the hours of 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. So,
Okay. Is there any questions for Mr. Tingle? Marty, any concerns?
No, this is like the third year I think we've done this, and we've not, and you always talk to the truckers, right?
Yes, we did talk to Valero, Navita now, and also Egg First about that it'd be blocked off. And once again, they said that it would be no problem. They would mention it to their drivers, but normally on a Saturday they don't have anything going on. So
And we've never had any concerns, so I have no issue.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Need a motion and a second. No further questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Back to letter F. Action to approve abatement number 19-24, an abatement application made by Karen Corco for parcel number 40385-00200-005-05 in the amount of $589.80. To have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any discussion here? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Letter G, action to approve abatement number 19-25, an abatement application made by Shad Sweeland for parcel number 11150-11252-053-45 in the amount of $777.46. Have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Need a motion and a second. Discussion or questions?
What's that one, Jacob?
Ryan?
This is a cabin on Lake Ponset that was torn down May 5th of 2018, so the amount for abatement is just the remainder of the year taxes on that cabin when it didn't exist.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Letter H, action to correct the minutes from March 12th, 2019. Three-quarter crushed gravel bid by Sturzinger Construction should be north part 40,000 ton at $4.85 and south part 40,000 ton at $4.75. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I did go back and review. These were the amounts that were approved. This sheet was in the board packet at that time. The agreement had the correct amounts, but then as the information kind of got down to Jenna for the minutes, an old version was out there with the incorrect amounts just on this little spreadsheet part, and that accidentally got put in the minutes. So we need to republish this part of the information just to correct those minutes. It was all presented and approved correctly. It just wasn't put in the minutes. The right amounts weren't put in the minutes. So.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. We do have a 9:20. I think we're close enough. Discussion and possible action to approve a request from Isaac Wild Air Service LLC to land an airplane on county roads. Isaac Wild or Wild Air Services LLC presenting. A motion approved.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Isaac, would you like to address the board?
Good morning, guys. So, what we're pretty much...
State your name.
Oh, Isaac Wild with Wild Air Service. What we're trying to do is land and take off on the county paved roads to do dry fertilizer for our farmers in the area. As you know, it's pretty wet out there right now. We've been getting a lot of requests. Well, in Brookings County, there really isn't a whole lot of airports. And even the closer we can get to these fields, the cheaper we can make it for the customer. Because when we take off, we're doing about 30 acres at a time compared to maybe 100, 150. So the closer we can get to the field, the quicker we can get it done, the less fuel we burn, cheaper it is. As you can, or Stacy gave out in the agenda, it kind of highlights all the laws that we'll be following, extra measures will be taken. So if there's any questions, shoot them.
You have other agreements with other counties, Beetle and other stuff that too, has that?
They're getting approved right now as we
Okay.
speak.
So we're just.
Beetle and Kingsbury County, it's kind of normal procedures for them. So it sounded when I talked to them that it was gonna be no big deal. But like Dual, this is kind of the first for them. Same with Lake, and so they're probably gonna want me to come to their meeting just like you guys did. I'm assuming, but
Is this your first year in operation, or have you done this before?
this is our third year, and I've flown for other companies prior, so I'm used to this kind of stuff. Our first year we did it up in Hamlin. They kind of took a hands-off approach. They said you can do it, but we're not gonna really back you, kind of thing. If that makes sense. But now, sorry.
So when you block off a portion of road, about how long is that portion blocked off?
So for us to land, get loaded, and take off, it's roughly 5 minutes, and then everything goes back to normal. We like to keep it within a mile stretch of county road. As you can see, our truck, that makes it pretty efficient. It's got a big auger on it. Any loading into that truck will be done on a township gravel road, just like any ground rig would. So it really shouldn't affect traffic too much. Obviously, I'm looking for safety for myself too, because I'm the one piloting the airplane. So I'm not going to land when there's a whole rush of cars or something coming, because all it does is cause a mess, and I'll sit there and circle until maybe there's a good opening to come in and land. But it still makes it more quicker than flying all the way back to the airport.
You talked communication with the sheriff's office and the dispatch. Do you make sure that they know you're landing out in a certain area so they're not getting calls?
Yeah, I imagine that as people get used to this, there's going to be a lot of calls to a lot of different people. So if, like Stacy gave me a lot of emails this last week, so if I can blast an email, let everybody know what's going on, that way at least when they get the call, they're not shocked and can kind of explain to people what's going on.
Do you typically know more than 24 hours in advance that you're going to be doing that field based on the weather report for the following day, or?
It depends. Some customers need it done right away, rain tomorrow. So, and sometimes we'll have a week notice. It's just so dependent. So, obviously, the better the heads up, the more I like it too.
And I would guess you'd probably plan not to be landing during a commute time, like
Right.
at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and 4 or 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock is probably going to be the higher traffic times.
Right.
That
It
may
probably
be-
wouldn't make sense for us to do it during that time.
Right. Yep.
Do you have people that are monitoring the entry into the landing area? Because there's going to be people that are going to try to go around these signs.
Right. We take a vehicle and block off the road.
But do you have someone stationed there?
Yep. And they got a red flag, and then prior to that, we have those signs up there, and those ones there to kind of warn people. We'll probably put those a quarter mile, maybe a half mile before, and I also got some red blinking lights for that, just to draw more attention to it. So we will have guys there explaining to the traffic what is going on, how important it is not to go around us, and if they have to get around, we like to leave that a county gravel or something open so they can go around us.
Brian, do you have any questions?
Stacy and I met with Isaac, and I guess a few of my notes there you guys can see. I guess the biggest thing that I looked at was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Isaac, it'd be kind of a 10-mile radius of a nearest airport. So we're looking at the 10-mile radius around Brookings, not being used. That's kind of our biggest traffic threat. And also speaking with Isaac, if this were to be something that the board would approve, in the future we'd work together to put together a map of areas that he would potentially use. And it'd be on his shoulders essentially to figure out what areas in the county he would use. He's the one landing the plane and making sure he's safe, but then also respecting the fact that we got to watch out for for the public. But there again, if we had a map just kind of displaying areas, and this was all discussed here last week. I know I reached out to a couple of you, but I guess the biggest thing I look at is we are so wet this year, and anything that we can do to potentially take the mud off of our roads that's going to be coming out of the fields this spring is also another safety factor that we need to look at.
Any other questions? Dan? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I got one quick question for you guys. So other counties, some of them are okay with you taking down certain street signs to make a nice landing pad if they're too close to the road. Is that something you guys would be in favor for or against? I'd just rather have it out
I
in the
think
open.
maybe you'd have to talk to Brian about that.
And obviously it wouldn't be like stop signs or anything like that, but
Well,
maybe
I think as we move forward here in the future, that is something we could potentially look at. There again, by signifying areas that we know, but they would have. I mean, we'd have to have them up as soon as you guys would leave that area. You know, it'd only be in the event of the closure. Sure. And knowing where those areas are at, we could potentially work together to make sure that, you know, the stubs slip inside the, or the post slips inside the stub, so the sign is fairly easily removable, but there again, it's fairly easy to put back in. So in the event of those potential closures, we would want to make sure that, you know, we'd work together on that.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay, back to regular agenda. Action to approve a request to fill vacancy for an office coordinator in the state's attorney's office. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Dan, do you have any comments?
Well, the position was posted. We haven't scheduled interviews yet, but we'll probably do that here in the next week. We're moving Mandy Kramer over to the victim witness coordinator position, which opens up the office coordinator position. So that's the position that is being requested to fill.
Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Letter J, action to approve the request for proposals for construction manager at risk for the jail expansion project. A motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I believe Commissioner Pierce and Boersma worked on this. Can you explain a little bit?
We'll let Commissioner Boersma do that.
Okay. And I did
That's
hand out
satisfactory.
hard copies for everyone this morning, because we didn't have that done in time to get it in and get it into the packet. But this was the most recent version is in front of you this morning, both that and then the score sheet as well.
So this has gone through 2 or 3 revision rounds. Our architect, Bruce Schwartzman from BKV, has had an opportunity to weigh in. He had one kind of friendly clarification to make in it. I'm trying to find the page that it's on so that I can note
If that helps, Andy, on page 6,
Yes.
I had a conversation with him yesterday too. Page 6 under quality management, you see that number 3 is highlighted. He wanted, on the very last sentence, he wanted the CMAR or the subcontractor shall be responsible for the cost of excessive additional testing. So that would be one correction to it.
Friendly amendment to that. So if anybody had, I mean, if there are questions, has everybody had a chance to kind of take a look at parts and pieces of it? The broad kind of overarching idea is that this was a change from the original one that was proposed by BKV. What we ended up doing as a subcommittee was pulling together the BKV version with the state of South Dakota Office of State Engineers standard form for request for proposals on construction management at risk services and sort of hybridizing those two just to clarify it so that it's more familiar in terms of format and requirements and final evaluation criteria for folks who are within the state of South Dakota. So it's at least a format that they sort of recognize because it's based on OSC's standard, and then adds in some of the qualifications-based selection with best value practices that BKV suggested.
Okay. So BKV has looked at this and agree with it completely.
Yep. The only other thing that I did have a conversation with Bruce yesterday was the builder's risk. He had indicated that it said the county will carry that. Been working with our South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance, and they believe her thought was that since this is an addition to an existing building, that we wouldn't have to get additional coverage. But even if we would, our cost to carry that would be probably less expensive than to get the CMAR to do that. And if they're required to carry that, we're just going to see that as an increased expense on on whatever proposal they give to us. So I think the verbiage is fine, and I'll continue to work with Lynn on that to see if we do actually need additional or not. But that was Bruce's indication that we could probably get it at a better rate, and either way, we're going to see the cost for it, and it could be more expensive if we leave it. If we take that out, that it would be the CMAR instead of the county carrying the insurance.
Okay. Any other questions? Maybe none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
So just quickly too, as part of part of this process and working with Commissioners Boersma, Pierce on this is kind of a schedule, I guess, kind of for upcoming dates that we're going to try to hit. So I'm going to be working with Bruce and Anthony with BKV, and we will get this issued on Thursday this week. We'll make sure that correction is made and that it's clear and that it's ready to go, so that we'll get that out on Thursday. There will be a pre-proposal meeting on Thursday, May 23rd at 1:30. I don't know, Marty, if you have a place for that. Otherwise, we could have it here at the building, and then we'd probably just have to walk across the street. Do you have a meeting room space that would? So we can plan on that. And then the last day to receive questions on that. So those who are interested in submitting a proposal would have to attend that pre-proposal meeting. That would be a requirement of them. And then the last day to receive questions, any additional questions that that any of the people who are maybe wanting to submit a proposal would submit them by Thursday, May 30th at 4. And I believe, and Angie can correct me if I'm wrong, then those questions that they submit go out to everyone who has shown interest in doing that, so that everyone is getting the same information. And then proposals will be due on the 6th of June. And then you, as the committee, will review the proposals on Tuesday, June 18th as part of, I think that's a regular meeting day. We'll shortlist the firms and notify them. And I did have a conversation again with Bruce that I would be the one notifying them via an email that he will help me draft, so we have the proper language. So we'll notify them. We'll schedule interviews for June 9th, and then hopefully by the end of July, we'll be choosing someone. So that's kind of our tentative. Hopefully not tentative. Hopefully that's our schedule. So to keep it moving forward. So.
Any questions?
What did you say about interviews?
Interviews on Tuesday, June 9th.
July 9th.
July
Okay,
9th. Oh, sorry. I had that wrong. July 9th. Not June 9th. That's way too soon. We're not ready for June. July 9th. Not when the proposals are due on the 6th. Sorry about that. And then the notification would be by the 23rd of July. So.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, move on to Commission Department Directors Report.
Okay. My report was included in the packet. Part of that was that I noted that the county's appointee to the Human Rights Commission, Shafiqur Rahman, has resigned his position on that board. His appointment was up at the end of this year, so I guess looking for some just general direction from the board. Do you want us to go ahead and open that and try to get someone appointed now, and then just to finish out the rest of that term, which ends at the end of the year, or do you want to wait until the end of the year to just advertise it with the rest of the year-end appointments? And I guess I'm just looking for some direction from the board. We could open it now, and then that person would have to reapply then at the end of the year.
I really think we have enough of this year left to
do it.
And that commission is evolving, making some changes in transition, and we want our person on board, I think.
Okay. We will go ahead and do that. The next Sioux Valley Commissioners Quarterly Meeting is Wednesday, May 22nd, in a couple of weeks at noon down at Mad Mary's in Flandreau. I do need to RSVP later this week, and I know I've heard from Commissioner Pierce. Does anybody else plan to attend?
I do.
Yes. Okay. Ryan, yes?
Yep.
Larry, yes? Larry? Okay. The other thing that we do have coming up is there's some active shooter training sessions that Lieutenant Kuhn with the Brookings Police Department is going to do with both city and county staff. The dates are May 22nd. That doesn't work well for those of us going to Mad Mary's, but then again, May 28th from 3 to 5 and June 25th from 3 to 5. So if you know that you want to attend one of those sessions, we're trying to kind of just get a head count for each of those sessions. So if you want, you can send you those dates or take a look. But if you would like to attend, let me know, and I can get you signed up for one of those sessions to attend with city and county staff, if anyone is interested. Just some other upcoming dates, and then once I'm done, then Sean has some IT updates that he would like to give us as well. But the jail tour was yesterday. Again, the May 22nd, the 10-county meeting, we talked about that. May 27th, Memorial Day offices are closed. Tuesday, June 4th, we do have that mental health task force presentation that's here in the chambers at 3:30, and that's going to be a joint meeting of the County Commission, City Council, and School Board. So make sure you have that on your calendars. And then just budget hearings, again, keep reminding you of that. You should have those on your calendars for Tuesday, June 11th and Wednesday, June 12th. So that is all I have, unless you have any questions. Otherwise, Sean has some updates for you.
Sean.
Well, this Thursday, we're going to be upgrading our financial software, Encode software, so we will be without that this morning, or in the morning of Thursday the 9th, I believe it is. That we tried to arrange for that to be on a downtime, but it wasn't something that was going to work out. They were typically closed most days that we were closed, or if they were open, somebody already took those times. So we'll be as open as we can be, but our financial software won't be working at that time. And then I'm working with the State's Attorney's Office and the Sheriff's Office. I have a training session with the Sheriff's Office this Thursday afternoon to go through our online online evidence storage and training them how to get evidence from the online storage to the state's attorney's office without copying, downloading, burning to a disk, anything. And then the state's attorney's office is going to be able to distribute that directly to defense attorneys through an email link rather than creating a copy of a DVD or copying it onto a thumb drive and mailing it out. Once that's done, we do have 5 of the 9 vehicles installed. Once the last 4 are done, it should be more or less complete. So then it'll be pretty much a digital process rather than anything manual. A few growing pains, but other than that, it should be done.
I just want to say, I am so excited about this evidence.com. Did I say the name right?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
This process where everything is going to be downloaded, it's, I think, 3 years from now, once everybody's gotten used to it, when we look at the personnel time savings at the sheriff's office, at the state's attorney's office, at what we're paying court-appointed attorneys to do that stuff, it's just going to be amazing that this is going to be great. I did have a question. When Dan was telling me about it, he said there would be no increase in his budget as a result of the program. Is that?
As far as I understand, that's correct. The Axon, formerly Taser, the people who own and run the platform, give it to prosecutors' offices as kind of an incentive for law enforcement to use their technology.
And is there any increase to the sheriff's budget because we're using it at the state's attorney's office? Or
no, there shouldn't be. We recently signed up for 5 years with them for what amounts to unlimited storage with evidence.com. So then everything that they do is being uploaded and preserved for, I think the shortest time period is 60 days for test videos, 6 months for a traffic stop, up to, I believe it's 10 or 20 years in the event of a homicide.
So has somebody already looked at the records retention stuff and make sure that we're all in compliance with all of that? It's exciting.
Basically, we can hold on to anything as long as we need to. If something's about to expire and we want to hang on to it, we can flag it to stay until we say get rid of it. So if there is something where we do need to hang on to it, even if it's a citizen interaction that we had recorded that nothing seemed to happen, but something happened as a result of it, we can hang on to that even if it is categorized as something insignificant.
Also, the pictometry flyover is happening as we speak.
Hopefully.
Maybe not today.
Yes,
if it's cloudy, but I think we got an email, was it yesterday? They're about 7% complete with the county.
7% done, 25% done with the high resolution images, I believe, which was for the city of Brookings, Volga, and Aurora, where they're doing higher quality imagery. Otherwise, 7% done. Hopefully, the trees are budding very, very quickly. So that hopefully it doesn't happen so quickly that they're not able to finish up, but if it does, then we're going to be delayed until fall, which hopefully doesn't happen.
Thank you. Moving on, State's Attorney Office report, Dan.
Sean, you stole all my thunder. Well, so evidence.com is an exciting process that we're beginning to engage in. One of the things that I wanted to do was to try to streamline and modernize the State's Attorney's Office as much as I could. And one of the ways that we're doing this now is through evidence.com. So as Sean explained, it used to be that we would have to receive the digital files, digital audio, video files from either the Sheriff's Office, DCI, Highway Patrol, and the Brookings Police Department, and staff at the State's Attorney's Office would then have to download those files and then put it on a disk. And the wait time, obviously, as you can imagine, would be significant, and then we would have to hand deliver those discs to the defense attorneys either through mail or hand delivery at the courthouse. Well, one of the biggest complaints that I had received, last fall and certainly in the last 3 months was the length of time that it was taking to transfer this evidence. And why that matters is because if we're trying to resolve cases, we only can resolve it as fast as the defense attorneys get evidence, right? And so through this process now, as Sean explained, we're able to upload all of the evidence, and we have shared space with the police department, with the sheriff's office, and it's a very seamless organization that they then use their digital files on evidence.com, and then they just share those files to our account on evidence.com, and then we can go and select and itemize each piece of discovery as it relates to the individual cases. We then send that link to the defense attorney, and the defense attorney just simply clicks on a link in an email. It's very safe and secure, and then that link, once it's clicked, starts the automatic downloading process for all these digital files. And so it cuts out the hard disks, it cuts out time from our staff having to download these items on the hard disk, and it's going to cut down on the expense, the labor, all of that. So that's one modernization that we're making at the state's attorney's office. And so we've implemented this late last week and into this week, and so all those discovery items now are being sent that way. And so I think it's going to be, as Leanne said, looking back 3 years from now, I think this will be a big no-brainer for us in that effort. So that was one item. The second item was last week I attended the State's Attorneys Association conference in Deadwood. I was reelected to the board of directors. This is my second term, so I represent the entire Third Circuit, which comprises of the same counties that are within the judicial Third Circuit. So Watertown, Madison, Brookings, Huron are some of the larger jurisdictions on that. One discussion item that I think is interesting as it relates to CBD oil. Some of you may have seen in the news recently where the state's attorneys were disagreeing with what the Attorney General had interpreted the law as it relates to CBD. CBD is short for cannabinol, which, going back to this last legislative session, used to be listed as a Scheduled 4 controlled substance, which is a Class 6 felony. And they have since removed cannabinol, CBD, from the controlled substance list. They did that this last legislative session. There's kind of some disagreement as to why the legislature did that. Some think that it was intentional, others think that it was a mistake. But as the law reads right now, CBD is not listed as a controlled substance, and so we, as the state's attorneys believe, and their major counties, Pennington, Minnehaha, Lincoln, Brown, and probably myself, I'm going to probably issue a press release here soon. There's not a basis under the law as it's written now to prosecute it under controlled substance. So then we look at the definition of marijuana. As marijuana is defined under South Dakota law right now, it has to be in an unaltered state, and CBD, cannabinol, is an altered state of marijuana, so it actually doesn't fit the definition of marijuana either. So myself, along with many other state's attorneys in the state of South Dakota, feel that CBD is not something that can be prosecuted right now as the law is written. Now, there's a caveat to all of this, though, is that if that CBD is then sent out to the state health lab and tested, and the presence of THC is found, then it's completely different than it is we can then initiate a prosecution on that. So I think that's how we're going to be handling CBD cases now. It's kind of a wait and see. We'll send it out to the state health lab, have it tested, and if it is found to have the presence of THC, then it does meet the definition of marijuana and something to be prosecuted. So whether or not the legislature fixes that next session, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But that was one topic of discussion that we had as state's attorneys in Deadwood, and that's kind of where the State's Attorneys Association is leaning towards. So any questions on any of that? All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Move on to number 11, Commissioner reports and discussion items. Commissioner Pierce.
On April 25th, as Mr. Hill said, we had a joint jurisdiction meeting. Again, at that meeting, we focused on aquifer ordinance, and we've done a lot of discussion on the aquifer. I think we might be done now, but we got to wait for to actually see the revision on the ordinance. On April 30th, I attended the BEDC, the Brookings Economic Development Corporation annual retreat, and it was an all-day meeting. There were maybe approximately 30 people that were there. The person from Basin Electric that does facilitating came over and was our moderator, did just an excellent job. It was interesting. I learned a lot, and I was going to try to bring for you to look at, and I could not find them last night after we talked about it. There were some population studies that were presented for the city of Brookings and Brookings County that I think we'd find of interest. And I was wondering, Stacy, if I could ask you to reach out to Al, get those population studies, put them in our packet for our next meeting. Just it is interesting to see what the projections are and where we were 10 years ago versus now. On May 1st, Angie and Stacy and I met to work on the request for proposals. On May 2nd, I attended that special commission meeting on health insurance with the rest of you, and then went to the jail tour in Olivia yesterday. And just for the record, I do support us using those steel cells. That tour was really interesting. I learned a lot, and the steel cells that cost about $25,000 a piece, I think would work out well for us. That would be my report.
Okay. Commissioner Boersma.
Thursday, April 25th, I attended a rural housing summit in Centerville, South Dakota, as a kind of in conjunction with ICAP and the board for that, just discussing some of the challenges of rural housing development. And I think communities, Class 2 municipalities in particular, like Centerville, have some similarities to some of our bedroom communities in Brookings County. And so it was really interesting to participate in that discussion. Friday, April 26th was the Elkton Fire Department feed, and Commissioners Jensen and Bartley and I were all part of that. Monday, April 29th, the Mental Health Task Force met, and we're working on finalizing the report for the June meeting. Tuesday, April 30th was the Brookings Fire Department county and city joint feed. And then, as Commissioner Pierce mentioned, the jail RFP was discussed on Wednesday, May 1st, and we got that all finalized and comments back. And then the second, our special commission meeting, and yesterday's jail tour.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Krogman.
Yeah, April 24th had our beta meeting, and went through that process and and had that. Just you've probably seen it in the paper and the stuff that we are halting the weekend services until October 1st, when our fiscal year would start over. We'll see where we're at the end of the year. And then also, there is a raise in the prices from $2 to $3 and some other raises and stuff too. It's been over 10 years since we've had raises, so we're far overdue for that. But at the end of the year here, or end of their fiscal year, we'll see where we're at. And then we'll have to budget accordingly and see where we're at with the weekend ridership. One of the other issues that has been coming up with the use and the cost is the availability of drivers. If you look at their employees, a lot of them are part-time employees that do the driving on a part-time basis, and a lot of times those part-timers don't want to work on the weekends. So it's really hard to find weekend drivers, and they start taxing their people, and then they don't want to work anymore, and they start losing drivers when they don't want to do that. So that was another issue that they had. So we're going to try this for a few months and then and see where we end up in October. So. And then also had a meeting on the 25th. We met with, on behalf of Beta, met with Ryan Bruner, from the PUC commissioner, and our discussion was based on availability of land for a bus garage, joint bus garage with the Brookings school system, and availability of state land that might be available. And so there was discussion with him that what would be available and what could be available in the state land. And again, that was just kind of a beginning discussion with him. He was coming through town, and we took about an hour and a half of his time. So he was gracious enough to sit down with us and listen to what we're looking for and what we're trying to accomplish, and to see if there's any state land out there that we can look for a place for that. Also then on the 29th, we had our BCOAC meeting at noon. And again, some of the highlights that Kristin gave in her report were the income levels that we received in the first quarter, and then also the expense levels that we received. So first quarter has gone very well with income, and we've been able to hold down some of our expenses. We will see some more expenses. There's a couple larger price tag items that we need to fix in our HVAC stuff that we needed to wait until later in the year to where the weather cooperated for us. So we'll have some there too, and it will be a slower time during the summer. So, but we're doing as much as we can to keep that building full and useful during the summer. And I think these partnerships with GFNP and the city, their use, because again, just to the south there is a nice outdoor facility that the city owns that is well utilized during the summer. And so if we can partnership and use ours and get them into our doors to do a joint collaboration day of fishing and archery or classroom and all that good stuff, I think it's a good way to keep doing that. And then we continue to try to keep working on youth there. There's been discussion of other 4-H shooting sports counties that are interested in possibly using the facility. And so we're going to be talking probably next meeting on how we can accommodate them and find some time for them, and at what costs do we charge them. It's one of those things that they're not our 4-H county, but they're also 4-H youth, which we have want to accommodate. So we're not going to try to price them out there, but we also need to understand we need to get a little money to keep operating. But that is a work in progress, and we're hoping we can get some surrounding counties 4-H to potential usage and dates of usage. So anyway, a lot of good stuff going on there too. So and then also that night I had the Brookings Health meeting, and that is our monthly meeting. We won't have one next month, but not a ton to talk about there. We had a presentation from the health from the organization that we're with, and how things are going there. So that took up most of our time. And then I met on May 3rd. We had an affordable housing discussion with the mayor and leaders of ICAP, and just kind of with the mayor, city manager, and just how Brookings and the surrounding areas are continuing to work on affordable housing. And so there's just a good discussion. ICAP, I think, has some really good ideas, maybe partnering with South Dakota Housing to see some grants and some stuff like that. So that will be aimed at affordable housing in our area and communities and stuff too. So that was a good meeting to get started. And obviously went to the jail tour yesterday. Again, very informative. Appreciated the sheriff and their jail administrator. Excellent gentlemen that took us around, and were very willing to share pros and cons of their facility and what we're moving forward to. And I would agree, the jail cells on top of each other, it was great to see the system that we'd be putting in actually installed. That was neat to see, with the one pod and all the jails up in the second floors. You see it on the blueprints, you have an idea, and then when you get there, it's like, whoa, it's a little different than I thought it was. But I tell you what, in a small space, they were able to have a lot of cells and keep a lot of inmates in a small, stackable, efficient space, and very efficient with their staff too. So it's great to see. So appreciated that tour. That's it. Mm-hmm.
At the BCOAC, when you're looking at the upcoming programming, and I know our 4-H is using the facility for 4-H shooting events, But are there some other 4-H activities? Are we getting some of the Brookings County 4-H kids into the building for other things besides?
Absolutely. They're using it every time they can, they use it. So they're on the calendar and they have all the meetings there, as many as they can. If they, if they can't meet there for some reason, obviously they don't. But that's their main place that they meet and main stuff there that they do. So any type of meeting, any type of event they can do, they're doing it there.
Fantastic.
So
Thank
that's
you.
And with
Not
that,
that I know of,
and with that, Saturday mornings now, and then I believe on Sunday, freeing up 4-H shooting sports wrapped up, so there's some more time available, and Kristin's making more scheduling to fill those times. So.
We are getting requests from outside entities to rent our ranges more and more as they get a chance to get in there. They like it and they want to come back. And so there was a decision, to made that those Saturday mornings are very busy during the winter because nobody's outside, and they're for 4-H, require 4-H. Well, now 4-H shooting sports is done, so we have these Saturday mornings that are fairly open, and I think we're going to try to keep those open for people that want to schedule events and don't have to turn around and close the range for scheduled events. That if you're looking for something, these weekend Saturday mornings are all available, and so hopefully it's a little bit easier scheduling. A little bit easier for people coming in going, maybe we can do this every other week type of thing too. So, and Kristin has something.
We change our hours June 1st from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. So instead of changing those hours, we're using Saturdays always 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. So since we did that, approved on the 29th of April, we've already filled all of June Saturday.
Is that it?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, on the 26th, I also attended the Elkton Fire Feed. They're always well attended, and it was a little chilly over there that night. But on the 29th, had an E911 meeting. There was a discussion on the backup dispatch center, which was just preliminary, but probably going to be located up on campus. There's some costs. They're gathering data, but the major cost on the project is basically a tower, about $135,000 for just a tower. So they're looking at options on that, and also different types of the computer or the controller. So also with that, we reviewed a towing contract that is kind of in the first stages also, that towing services will be asked to agree to, just to kind of make, I guess, within the city of Brookings and also in the county, fees more comparable between towing companies. That's kind of in the planning stages yet also. I think Dan might have had some input on that also. So that, and had the BCOAC meeting with Ryan out there. We covered that. Brookings Fireman's Feed on the 30th. Also, first, I did go to the Conservation Board meeting. There were some interesting facts. They're looking to hire a NOLO project coordinator within 4 counties. NOLO standing for non-operating landowners. Within the county of Brookings, there was 1,400 to 1,500 non-operating landowners, which might include the husband and wife, but there's 1,400 to 1,500 non-operating landowners within the county, which I thought was interesting. They did receive their trees. They're getting started planting trees within the county. They're really getting fired up for the season. On the 11th, or on the 2nd, we did have a brief meeting and discussion on possible insurance changes. And at noon that same day, an extension board meeting. Nothing new at the extension board. It's just we talked a little more on the advertising. Hopefully to I talked with Kristin. Hopefully to piggyback on some of the advertising on campus to get something going there. And then on the 6th yesterday, went on the jail tour to Renville, Minnesota, or Renville and Olivia, Minnesota, and it was a great tour. Stephanie Miller and myself did tour Hughes County Jail out in Fort Pierre. It'd be great if you guys could go see that also. It's a similar facility, a little bit different it's about the same type of layout, but the size difference is it'd be great if you guys could go out there and look at that also. And with that, that's all I have. Moving on, we do have an executive session. According to South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, personnel, and South Dakota Codified Law 4-25-2, contract negotiations. I look for a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
And a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Dan, did Chief